Back. This is Lauren Kimball with ANI 150, and we are moving forward with the Sci-Fi crate. So in the last tutorial, we had brought the Sci-Fi crate into Zbrush, and we had a really basic introduction to the very odd workspace of Zbrush. And I had mentioned that you could put in custom shapes and decals using drag react and loading in your own alpha map. Okay, and that's what we're going to do here. That's why I've got Photoshop opened. So first thing I'm going to do is click on Create New and create a new document. This new document, I'm just going to go over here and I can type in 3 inches by 3 inches. This drop down menu right here, you can set it to inches, and I'm going to make the resolution 300. Now there's not that I'm aware of, I don't think there's any rules when it comes to canvas size and what you can bring into ZBrush. I've seen custom alpha maps that you can pull off online that have been rectangle shape, square shape. I personally like to work in squares, and I like to have lots of resolution, so that's why I chose this. So 3 inches by 3 inches with a deep resolution of about 300 and create. So I've got this nice little white square, and I'm going to tap D on my keyboard, and D is just going to reset my foreground and background swatches over here so that they're black and white, just making sure they're black and white. And I'm going to press G. And G is the hotkey for the paint bucket. Now, it might not be the hotkey for the paint bucket for everyone. If you haven't opened up Photoshop in a while, or it's set to its original defaults, then you might have the gradient tool. So to get to the paint bucket tool, you would click on the gradient tool, and you would just hold down on it. So see any of these buttons over here to the left that have these little tiny drop down arrows, you can hold down and see that there's another tool underneath. That's why those little tiny arrows in the bottom right hand corner of the tools are there. If I click on zoom, there's no other tool, so you don't see that little arrow down there. But under gradient, there's the paint bucket tool and the 3D material tool. So I can just click the paint bucket that way, or I can hold down shift and just tab G, and I can toggle through gradient to paint bucket, etc. Alright, so I'm just going to click on this, set to black, awesome, and I want to go ahead and create a nice triangle just like it is on the Sci-Fi crate, on the concept art. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a brand new layer, and I'm going to grab my pen tool, and I'm just going to click with the pen tool, create a handle, hold down shift and click another handle. If I hold down shift, it creates a nice straight line. I'm then going to go down here to what's roughly the middle, click, and then click to connect it. So I've got this nice pen shape. Careful not to click and drag, that creates an anchor point with a tangent handle that can basically customize your Bezier curve. We just want straight lines. So just click, 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 no dragging. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my paths menu. Make sure you have the new layer selected. Press X on your keyboard, and X is the hotkey that swaps your foreground and background swatches. So if you look at my foreground and background swatches over here toward the left of my screen, and I tab X, you can see how they're moving back and forth. So I clicked it once so that white is in the foreground. I'm going to click on Paths, and I'm going to go down here, and you'll see that there's all these buttons at the bottom. You know, some of these you're familiar with, the trash can for deleting, the box, the plus sign for creating new. To the far left, you have this circle. I want you to click it, and it's just going to fill everything with white. And then with my pen tool selected, I'm going to press enter, and that is going to take the pen tool shapes away. And so we essentially have this really nice triangle inside this box, and I can move it using my move tool over here, which is the V hotkey, and these purple guides are just telling me when this triangle is centered on my canvas. It doesn't really matter, but it's kind of nice. And so I'm done. This is all I needed. So I'm going to just go File, and I'm going to Save As, and I'll just save it to my desktop as a Photoshop document, and I'm just going to call it Arrow and save. Alright, I'm going to turn off the arrow, and I'm going to create a line next. So what do I mean by creating a line? Let me minimize my screen a little and pull this crate reference up. So this crate reference here, I've created this arrow, and that's where that's going to go on my crate, but I also have these nice little lines that show up on each of my corners, and I kind of want to have those available too. So I'm going to create an alpha map for that line, just so I have consistency. I could just take my standard tool in ZBrush and just draw a line, but I want to have consistency on every face. So I'm going to go ahead and make an alpha map for that. And I'll use my pen tool again, and I'll just click up here and click across, and I'm going to press B for my brush tool, and I'm going to click on a hard round, and I'm just going to up the size on this, maybe like 200. And then I can press enter. Oh, let me undo. Oh, no, sorry. Pen tool, click that other handle there. I meant to undo because I had it in my head that I had applied this to an invisible layer. Let me just create a new layer, a new visible layer, because the other layer has our triangle on it. All right, so make sure you have that new layer, and then press, with the brush tool selected, very important, press enter. That's a bit too much. And press undo. Let's take that size down to like 150. All right, with the brush tool selected, enter. Oh, that's pretty good. That'll work. I press enter a couple more times, and then it gets rid of that little edge gradient that was created. Another way to get rid of it is to just press F5 and take away spacing, but we don't have to get into that. I just press enter a whole bunch of times, and you won't see that gradient at the end. And then I can press P for pen tool and press enter, and that makes that one pen line that I created go away. And so I'm going to go File, Save As, and I'm going to call this my line and save it. And now we are going to bring these into ZBrush.